Welcome back to the Non-League Papers Non-League Goalmouth. My name is Matt Badcock. I'm joined by our executive editor, John Couch, and our man in the Northwest, Andy Simpson. Simo, good to have you back on, mate. Chaps, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for the invite.
I'm good. It feels like we're that bit closer to the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers of non-league football getting onto the FA Cup first round, and we'll see if they can manage to string a couple of passes together and maybe sort of somehow fluke one into the top corner. With the Cup first round proper coming. We're also that bit closer to the whole replays debate emerging again next week when someone gets a replay. So we've got that to look forward to. But we are going to do an FA Cup first round proper sort of special for this week's pod. Thanks everyone for tuning in. As we always say, if you can like and subscribe, I really appreciate it. But there's lots of brilliant games this weekend. Lots of curious, the archetypal non-league club at home against a big football league club. We've got football league clubs going, non-league clubs going on mad journeys across the country to EFL sides to play away, and then we've got the kind of the slightly more under the radar ones, all non-league ties as well. But maybe we'll sort of start off with you, Couchin, and any that what's one that's kind of really piqued your interest and that you're looking ahead to on the weekend.
Oh, loads. I had a quick look this morning and looked down my list at sort of games to talk about, and there was plenty.
It's a hard week for us, isn't it? Because we were talking earlier, but picking out all the picture games that we're trying to guess where the shots are, and you start sort of overthinking. What if they go and win there? What if they win there? It's kind of it's hard to.
And you got your non-league hat as well, and your football fan hat. So you don't really sort of know how to describe it. But I mean, there was a lot. Burton Albion versus St Albans. That was one I thought. Yeah, you know what. St Albans could go there and give Burton a bit of a go, but struggling a little bit in League One. St Albans flying high. They excellent replay victory in the last round, get themselves there, and then bang in the build up to the game 3 days before. Manager Ian Culverhouse and Paul Badcock are off, and they've gone to Kings Lynn, gone back to Kings Lynn.
They know the way. They know the way there.
Yeah. So it's hit their preparation somewhat. And I noticed on the St Albans statement that they asked them to do it afterwards, but that was refused or that was ignored or something. Naturally they're not very happy, but. I mean, look, this is the FA Cup, though. Anything can happen. What a story that would be if managerless St Albans said he could go up to League One Burton Albion and get something. They've got absolutely nothing to fear. Big guy. They travel very well, travel in numbers. And, I think even without the manager, they'll have something to prove. And I still think that could be a little banana skin. Now I don't think Burton will fancy that very much.
Simo, do you think sometimes that can bring a bit of an extra siege mentality to a squad when they have this kind of upheaval right before a big game? Not ideal, as you say, Couchy. St Albans were boiling in their statement, weren't they? They were obviously clearly not happy about it, and Kings Lynn, from their point of view, they've got a bit of a. Probably no time for sentiment. They need to crack on and start winning some games and sort of kind of turning their season around. So it's sort of slightly ruthless side of football, but maybe it can sort of bond the group together a little bit more than they no doubt already are.
I think that's absolutely how I would attack it if I was managing the team this weekend. You have to really feel for St Albans, don't you? Because playing in the first round of the FA Cup isn't something that happens every season. Even if you're a club that has a good tradition in the competition, it's rarely an annual event when you're a non-league club. They've had a bit of a tough time anyway. We're dropping down to step 3. So this is a kind of real feel-good element to them making the first round. It feels a shame that the guys couldn't take the team. I'm sure they've got they've got their reasons. And I guess once your mind's made up, could it have a detrimental effect if they're still kind of hanging around? I mean, if you're a player, I think you've got to be professional enough to kind of stay focused. There's still a job to do. It's still an amazing opportunity to put yourself in the shop window. It throws Burton Albion a curveball because they probably were doing a lot of homework on kind of how St Albans have been setting up, had been playing under Ian Culverhouse, and kind of a lot of that work now is undone. So that could be an advantage to St Albans. And again, we'll have to wait and see what they kind of come up with for the weekend. But yeah, whichever way you spin it, or however positive you try to be, it's not ideal. It's really not.
Yeah, definitely not ideal. I always think with St Albans had good runs a couple of years ago, didn't they? And they beat Forest Green on TV. But I always think when I think St Albans and FA Cup and sort of Paul Bastock, particularly because he was in goal. He's a club legend down there as well. So it's not. Yeah. Probably a decision hasn't taken lightly, but I always remember going down there in I think it was the first round a few years ago when they played Mansfield, and I think they led St Albans from memory. They went 1-0 up, and then Sam Clucas turned it on for Mansfield and scored 4 in an 8-1 win. But the day was particularly memorable for I think it was the 8th goal. Clucas ran through and sort of chipped Bastock. And Bastock came out of his goal and he was shouting at all his defenders, absolutely fuming. He think that was the 8th goal that's gone in, and he was lambasting his defenders for not sort of tracking the runners and all that kind of stuff. And it was little insight into sort of the mentality that he had. But yeah, it is a bit of a.
Until he was about 47 or something, didn't he? I think Paul Bastock.
Yeah, it was definitely well into his 40s. He's sort of one of those that kind of when he says he's retiring, you wouldn't. Sort of not sure if he actually has. If you told me that he was playing this weekend, I would just probably.
Is it retirement or Jamie Cureton retirement? Two very different things.
Complete non-league football, but definitely an interesting one, and it's it may be in a funny sort of way. It kind of comes at a nice time because they're not straight into a league game, and they can use the sort of the FA Cup and kind of have that sort of
absolutely nothing to lose, have they?
Here and maybe talking about managerless clubs, although they've got an interim there in Neil Gibson at Altrincham, but I think we were slightly surprised at the news of Phil Parkinson leaving Alty last week after I think the statement said he's left the club in a better place than when he came, which is probably one of the understatements of the last 25 years since I've been at the paper, considering they were at step 3 and been back-to-back relegated when he took over. But incredible job he's done there, but they've got obviously a big decision to make on what they're doing. And Andy, they were one you were sort of keen to kind of talk about ahead of this weekend and that decision as well that they're going to have to make.
Yeah, a couple of themes, and you touched on it. Kind of when you're going through a period like they are, and really kind of having a rough time in the league, aren't they? Not won since the 6th of September. So kind of in immediate term, there has been an issue with form and with results, and they are much lower in the table than where they would have liked to have been, or certainly where they would have expected to be based on the past couple of seasons. So to have the distraction of an FA Cup tie, I think is quite a good thing for them this weekend. It feels like they're handling this in quite a considered way. They very quickly appointed an interim manager, and that suggests they're going to take their time on this appointment. And I said to you this morning, like Matt, they need to get this right. You don't want to go into a tailspin now. I mean, Phil Parkinson got the job on the back of a tailspin at Altrincham when they dropped down to step 3. So this is a big call for them to make. It's a huge call for them to have made to make the change. But as always with these things, I say to people, actually getting rid of the original guy is the easy bit. It's making a good decision with the next one. I don't know whether Neil Gibson feels he wants to throw his hat into the frame. Obviously, he's doing an audition if he is interested. So a win in the FA Cup certainly won't do him any harm. And kind of on paper, you look at the draw and they're going down to a Slough side that also is not having the great time in National League South. So it's kind of two teams scratching around for results. So I think the FA Cup first round comes at a perfect time for both of them. Perhaps Alty will have a great following going down there on Saturday. The support there's been solid. But yeah, it's a delicate moment. But you can use it to your advantage if you can pick up a good result in the FA Cup. Although they only just scraped to this stage, didn't they? They didn't to see off Harborough. So we shall see. But very much one I'm keeping an eye on because it's a big call they've got to make now.
Yeah, it feels a big decision, and probably on Saturday couch, they probably don't want to be giving away any free kicks around that edge of the box. If Scott Davis is playing player manager for Slough, because he'll be on those ones. Talking about players who kind of carry on.
He's a master of it, and knows all about cup shocks over the years, and he's just the sort of person you don't really want to be coming up against. But no, you're right. It's one of those games. It's a big game for both clubs here. So both of them will sense an opportunity here and which could make it a sort of bit of a nervy affair. But yeah, be interested in that one.
Yeah, is it going to be key? I can't think we've sort of said this before, but it is key that these clubs turn up. The sort of the favourites in each of these ties really turn up and get off on the right foot early on in the game, because those, particularly when you're going away, those are the ones that can turn into tricky ones, can't they, Simo?
100%. I've seen both sides of it over the years. I was thinking this morning, knowing we were going to be talking about the FA Cup, where I remember going down to watch Norwich play Brighton and Hove Albion when they were in a League One at the time. They were with Dean Ground, and Vicks were flying at the time under Steve Burton. There was kind of a lot of feel in the build-up. They've got a puncher's chance here, and they ended up losing the tie 8-0. And I remember kind of like slithering lower and lower into the seat as the game went on. And it was one of those where they'd got off to kind of a shaky start and never really recovered. And I remember Jake Robinson scored a hat-trick. He's scored loads of goals in non-league when he dropped out from the pro game at Whitehawk, wasn't he, and Billericay. They just couldn't get near him on the day. And that was one which unravelled completely. But I've been at the other end where you're going against a team that's kind of not feeling great about itself, and you do start on the front foot and you maybe create a couple of chances, get a big away following behind you. You absolutely can kind of get momentum in a game, and you're well on your way to an upset. And we're going to see that this weekend. I guarantee it. We're going to see that with one or two of the upsets. Whether it happens here, I don't know. They got a good solid point at Braintree, didn't they, last weekend? Kept a clean sheet. It's a tiny step forward for Alty, but they'll feel a bit better after doing that. So something for them to build on. But yeah, say Slough go 1-0 up. It'd be quite interesting to see how Alty handle that.
Yeah, I find that it's a weird. You kind of get like a weird feel for it within the game when you're at the stadium, don't you? You can sort of just kind of feel like that. That when the sort of the favourite is kind of wavering a little bit or struggling, and it kind of starts rolling. Sometimes I think it's also, more and more things kind of start going against them and bouncing the wrong way, and that's when you need that sort of little bit of luck. And you say, conversely, there's the other side of it where up into, I think I talked about a few weeks ago, I went up to Huddersfield when Dover were up there a few years ago. I think Huddersfield were 2-0 up inside about 10 minutes, and it was like, all right, that's that. And Portland Rovers against Norwich City a few years ago as well. I think that was about 7. Sometimes quite often the higher league side will turn up and sort of kind of put on a bit of a clinic, and then they start sort of rolling.
Barnet beat a couple of years ago. That was on a Sunday, away from home.
Barnet,
Barnet beat someone, but I'm doing
I don't know if it was. Yeah,
being on Sunday was just an amazing result. I remember texting you, Badders, wow, you see what's going on here? But
I had this weird theory for a while. That there's no shocks on Sundays.
Might be a stat.
I've got this totally baseless theory. I've got no evidence to back it up. I just always think the shocks come on Saturdays for some reason.
I think there will be this Sunday. I'm going to go with South Shields beating Shrewsbury this Sunday. I think that's my shock banker, if there's such a thing. I think Shrewsbury. I don't think they're fancied that at all. South Shields having a great start, of course, in National League North, flying high at the top of the table, and they'll fancy that one, they Sunday lunchtime against the Shrewsbury side struggling in League Two. I think that's got FA Cup shocker written all over it. I hope so, anyway.
Well, we talked about that with Mark Crothers last week, didn't we? And he was sort of kind of feeling the same. So maybe two of you might be right. Who
knows?
And it'll debunk my baseless Sunday theory as well, which again I've got no evidence to back it up. It'll be totally not even a thing. But I've got this. I always felt like Saturday 3 o'clock's better for the shock. It's all the right timings.
We've seen quite a few under the lights on Friday nights as well, haven't we? Good slot for an upset.
Well, having said that, I do remember a couple of occasions we've been scratching around at 4:45 trying to find a front page lead. When we've had a bit of a disappointing weekend in the FA Cup, and we're scratching. Is a 1-1 draw good enough to put on the front?
Was it last year? Dagenham bailed us out of one round, didn't they, by beating us in the late kickoff, and we sort of we needed it. We needed it desperately. And
I remember that.
And then a York fan hammered us for not putting York on the front page.
Yeah.
Talking of York, that was a good segue. It's like I planned it. Talking of York, I think that's one that sort of sticks out to me a little bit is the Barnsley one, just because of the whole, the fact they're going to take a fair old lot of fans over to Barnsley. Is that Barnsley obviously had a game against Horsham in the past, didn't they, where they sort of struggled a little bit. But York, they're the one of those sides that, again, you don't want them. You don't really want that. You don't want that sort of side who are going to come and play football. Have got packed with players who've played in the Football League in your level, and you've got dangerous sort of players like Ollie Pearce who are more than goal's going to be the same size. He's going to be more than happy to, if you give him a chance, to whack one in the back of your net. So I've got a little bit of a feeling for York. And then what you boys think about that one?
Yeah, I mean, York are just a sort of team that you don't really want to be playing, as you say. You've got dangerous players like Ollie Pearce, and I've also got some experienced guys who have played at that level before. This is not really your archetypal non-league football team. It's a team with bags of experience, load of goals, and they won't have any fear going up to Oakwell on Saturday. Barnsley, they would have done their homework. They know that. They know this isn't a Horsham team with absolutely nothing to lose. They're just going to go gung ho. York City will have a game plan, and they'll be competitive 100%.
Yeah, you think you sometimes see more shocks of teams away nowadays as well? Possibly, that's kind of we've seen quite a few of those in the last few years. That sort of gap kind of coming together. And another one we sort of talked about beforehand as well was a team going away, Chester going to Cambridge United, in sort of similar vein to Altrincham, and a nice bit of distraction from seasons not quite got going how they would like after last year's remarkable season playoff on.
No, people might look at Chester's film and go, you're nuts potentially saying that could be an upset. I'm not sure I'm going that far, but they're in a really tough time, bottom half of the league. I think they've only won the last 7 in the league. Though actually they've saved maybe their best results for the FA Cup. They put 5 past Curzon and Ashton, obviously knocked out a higher ranked opponent in Morecambe, which is still an upset despite all the problems obviously that Morecambe have had. But actually, in their first game, they edged out Stalybridge at a time when Stalybridge were going really well in the Northern Premier League, and a lot of people were looking at going, that could be one where Chester slip up. So actually they've saved probably their best moments of the season for this competition. I think it's, again, similar theme to Altrincham, a perfect time just to set the league aside for a week. They're going to have a massive following going down to Cambridge. We've seen the statement come out from the board this week. I think it stopped short of a vote of confidence. I'm not sure we get those in as blatant a way anymore, but they kind of have come out and said, look, we're going to try and figure out a way forward together. We hold our hands up. We know we're not where we want to be. It was a really disappointing home defeat against Bedford in the league at the weekend. So there's no hiding that Cal McIntyre's under a little bit of pressure. And they got so close, didn't they, last season, losing to Scunthorpe the way they did in the playoffs. And I think sometimes people underestimate just how difficult that is to come back from when you get that close.
Yeah.
Look, I'm sure it's still disappointing to be where they are, but we see it so often, don't we? When you kind of climb to the top of the mountain, you're kind of so close, it's taken away from you, and the lingering psychological effects of that can take a long time to lift. And it's a tricky call. Do we kind of back our guy because he's got credit in the bank and look where he took us so close? And he's generally been a good stint there for Callum. Obviously, his strong links to the club as well, with being a supporter and being from the area. So it's a real delicate one for them to handle. So can the distraction of going to Cambridge, where they won't be expected to win, but I think it's good timing for them. It's a while since they got to the FA Cup second round. I looked this morning, actually, it was 2014-2015 season under Steve Burr. They played Barnsley, we've just mentioned, and it took to
they beat Southend in that. Really, beat Southend in that run.
They beat Southend. Yeah, they had a really good run that year. Good season in the league as well. So yeah, it's an opportunity for them just to kind of reset, perform well, even if they're knocked out, and just take some momentum into the next league game to try and kickstart their season. There's still time to turn it around, but it's another kind of theme that I've got in my neck of the woods of clubs like, well, actually, we're going into the FA Cup with a slightly different mindset. It's quite nice to park our poor league form for a few days.
Yeah, you often see how the FA Cup can propel you on in the league as well, don't you? That's the thing. You can't sort of underestimate that. It does. Often talk about the other side of it when clubs have great runs and then they come back down to earth afterwards. But I think more often than not, it can really be a real positive. And like you say there, Simon, I think going again after such a good year, and the kind of all the emotion that was around it. They hadn't won a playoff game before. As Chester, and they won in the eliminator, and then they went to Kiddie and they won that, and it felt like a bit of an emotional kind of roller coaster, that playoff run. And Callum McIntyre, obviously, he leads with that as well, doesn't he? But you think that would buy more, like you say, plenty of credit in the bank from that point.
I'd like to think so. I felt the same about Parky, to be honest. Although if you're not kind of on the inside or kind of not watching them week after week, sometimes you are a little bit removed from kind of that analysis. But I think so. I think kind of lean towards more giving guys an opportunity to turn things around, unless you genuinely feel that they've kind of run out of emotional energy, that can happen as well. I've seen that happen. Kind of emotional fatigue is absolutely a thing. It can be very, very difficult to go again. Another, a theme that we talk about often, the National League North is a pretty unforgiving place. It's a seriously stiff competition in that division, and if you're slightly off or slightly below your standards, you will get a poke in the eye. And I think that's happened to them a little bit this season as well. So yeah, let's see how the next couple of weeks unfolds at Chester.
Yeah, not easy when you lose players as well. So they lost Harrison Burt, didn't they? In the summer, you're talking about Alty, they lost pretty much the whole forward line, and including Regan Linney, who scored all so many goals, and Newby went to York, and it's kind of like you can't just replace that with a click of a finger. Forget that as well, didn't they? So
he went too, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. This is difficult to kind of keep doing that year after year, as you have to often do when you're a non-league manager. I guess that's what makes it so hard and so interesting as well. But maybe we'll stay in the National League North for a couple of clubs as well. We've got interest in this week, and some all non-league ties there, with Buxton welcoming Chatham Town, which is a amazing opportunity. We're talking, as I mentioned earlier, about clubs, games that might go under the radar a little bit. This could be one of them from the sort of the outside world, but a huge opportunity for both clubs to get into that second round. And Buxton aside, I know you sort of have you seen them this year, Simo? Have you seen them?
Yes, I was there for the fourth qualifying round tie against Runcorn Linnet. Shout out to Runcorn; they had a brilliant record run to the fourth qualifying round. They pushed Buxton all the way. In fact, it was a wonder goal in the 92nd minute that helped the Bucks to kind of squeeze through. I think they probably just about were the better team on the day, although a replay, I don't think anyone would have really complained about that. But I was so struck with Buxton. They're a very, very young team. Obviously gone professional recently. John McGrath has got in there as manager, really successful at Mickle, taking the next step in his managerial career. And I thought, in a very, very difficult circumstances for an away team, big crowd, noisy crowd, young team, I was like, this could get interesting if Runcorn take the lead. But they were so composed, so calm, very much a team in the kind of model of their manager. John was a very classy midfielder, for those who remember him playing for Burton. And Buxton are very easy on the eye, keep possession, like to keep the ball on the deck, two wingers who kind of hug the touchline. Enjoyed watching them from that perspective. They have reached the first round a couple of times in the past 5 years before this one, but it's kind of the next step for them. And the roles are completely flipped this time, with home advantage and being the higher ranked team. They've got to handle this game in a slightly different way against an upwardly mobile opponent in Chatham. Very ambitious club, going well. I think they've only lost once in the East Mid League Prem this season. So yeah, it'll be interesting how kind of this young team handles that side of it. The evidence I saw, I think they're equipped to do it. But it's maybe not got the glamour of some of the other ties we'll talk about, but loads riding on this. What an opportunity to get to the second round for one of these two.
Yeah, like someone was saying, Chatham as well. They haven't been there for a long time. They've got that emotional connection. They have Kevin Hake, who's the sort of his dad's part of the big club, and he's kind of chairman, manager, and you need these ties in the FA Cup, don't you, to get those teams through to the third round. You kind of need them in the second round as well, to sort of the slightly, you say the ones where the spotlight maybe doesn't fall on them as much. But Chatham will kind of couch it. They'll go out there with no fear, will they? They're just to go and kind of sort of, as you say, pressure's off.
Let's go. 100%. Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously a very, very confident side going well to their league. This is a combination of a few years of hard work and progression, and they've got themselves into an excellent position here, and they'll have no fear going up to Buxton, and they'll give it a good go. And it's one of those ties that sort of anything can happen. Whatever result come up. Whatever will be, will be. It's a very difficult one to call this. Yes, of course, Buxton being the high ranked team, and home advantage, you probably fancy them. But Chatham won't have any fear at all going up there. And as I say, they'll give it a real go. And it could be a good game. This.
Yeah, talking to upwardly mobile clubs as well, meeting each other. We've got Macclesfield and AFC Tottenham, North versus South. Mac obviously under a fair bit of change in the summer, to say the least, with obviously Robbie Savage departing and going to Forest Green, and obviously they're at Luton on Friday night. But John Rooney in charge, and you've got AFC Tottenham, who've been on the up in the last few years. And Couchy, I know you spoke to Scott Rendell for last week for last week's NLP, someone who knows all about FA Cup shots. He's been knocked in that goal for Luton against Norwich, if all those not that many years ago, but a few years ago, to dump out them Premier League Norwich when Luton were in the conference. So a team that will kind of go up there with all that experience, lots of other players in their sort of spine of their side as well, who've been there and done it, and a tricky one for Macclesfield to have to contend with. Do you think?
Again, another real tough one. You got two teams at the same level, very, very similar. And obviously, both went up last year. Both on their day, capable of big things. Tough trip for Tottenham. They're sort of walking into a bit of a cauldron there. Obviously, we know what Mac are very well supported, but Tottenham picked up some big results at step 2 this year. Again, I don't think there'll be any fear, and you're right to point out about about those experienced players. Right down the spine of that team. They've got boys who have been to the likes of Mac over the years, and we'll have experienced many big games in both league and cup, and as I say, there won't be any fear there. But again, I think this is another tie where there's a real opportunity for one of these teams to sort of grab by the neck and get on, as you say, at this stage. If you can just get one more good draw, get into that third round, anything can happen.
What do you make of Max Simo and kind of we're saying there've been a lot of change there in the summer, and not just with manager going, but also a lot of players have kind of made the move as well, and they followed Savage down to Forest Green, and it's even happening now and this week as well, isn't it? So a lot of change. What you kind of make of them?
I think we're now in. I said this to your fair. I think we're now very firmly in the kind of Mac 2.0. We're in the next stage of their journey. Kind of what a kind of dizzying trajectory they've been on in 5 years to get to National League North, and then kind of have to perform this kind of pivot with losing their manager in the summer, hiring a rookie, so kind of taking a punt on somebody. And generally, they've done all right on the pitch. They're 10th in the table. They beat South Shields, didn't they? Actually,
last
weekend. They've won 4 games now in all competitions, not conceded a goal yet in the FA Cup. This is historic for the Reform Club to make this stage of the competition. So there's a feel-good factor around the pitch. Lots of change off it, with owner Rob Smethurst kind of taking a step back from day-to-day running the club, and they're kind of going to be a board running things. I mean, people forget, like, kind of he was making most of the decisions on his own off the field, obviously with kind of Robbie's input. So a big change in that respect, and we're kind of got to wait and see now what that looks like for the club. Listen, the club's in an amazing position. The infrastructure is outstanding. The team is still very, very good, by the way. But it's just kind of what that looks like of moving what they would say is to a kind of more sustainable footing, maybe becoming less reliant on the financial input of Rob and what that looks like. But the fan base is there. They're still a club with momentum. There was just a huge question mark of what does this look like with Robbie not being involved in the football side of things. And again, what we mentioned earlier, going into a very, very difficult decision. So for them to kind of be just outside the playoffs going into November and on this good FA Cup run, I think is a promising sign. But it's a little bit wait and see. This is a great opportunity. They'll be looking at this saying this is a great opportunity for us, of course, to get to the second round, and quietly one of the ties of the round probably this on with 2 teams going well. So kind of what comes of that this weekend. But yeah, it's a wait and see. I'd still be optimistic that they're going to be a force. Whether they can get promoted this season, perhaps not. But I don't think that would be the end of the world. They kind of consolidate in year one and maybe be ready to go in year two when everything's a little bit more settled off the field. But yeah, it's still been an amazing story and an amazing chapter when you consider kind of what happened to the club in 2020 to see them where they are now, and kind of all power to them.
Yeah, they're almost kind of bigger crowds these days than when they got promoted out on the National League under John Askey, and all the stuff that's kind of gone on down there. I do remember a few years ago going up there for an FA Cup game. I think when Steve King was in charge and they beat Matthew. They used to Barnes Homer every time he scored. Matthew, the hitman with a double-barreled name, Barnes Homer. Kept shouting out the tannoy and Steve King.
He's still going strong at Shifnal Town, by the way. I saw him.
Is he really?
Last week. Yeah, he's playing for Shifnal against Runcorn last week. So still, he's still scoring.
Real character.
So it's amazing just how many of these old guys still are playing. Well into their 40s. I mean, obviously we ran the story about Jamie Curtin last week, still playing at the age of 50. But there actually are quite a few of them around still. Still knocking about. It's brilliant. It's a massive testament to their fitness as well. I'm the same age as Curtin, and I couldn't. I couldn't do what he's doing.
It makes me feel old because I've been at Barnes Home for years, and way of England see of him when he was much younger, and you just think like, what's going on? Why are we talking about them as their old players and that they're carrying on for longer than we thought? It's ridiculous, really ridiculous. But sticking with it, like an all non-league tie, they get another one that does really stand out and has even caught the attention of the TV execs is Chelmsford against Braintree, and this is got all the makings of a big FA Cup tie when you throw in all the sort of the what's at stake anyway, but then throw in two Essex rivals not that far from each other. Been a bit of back and forth about tickets and how they're being sold this week and things like that. But you've got former Braintree manager Angelo Harrop in the Chelmsford dugout, Steve Pitt, the Braintree manager, in the someone who has basically known Angelo since he was born because he's mates with Angelo's dad, Jeff, and that was his first ever job in football was at Gas Rec with as joint manager alongside Angelo's dad many years ago, and it's kind of got all those makings. And I spoke to Steve Pitt last week, and he was saying, we need to kind of try and ignore all that noise. And actually, it was interesting. Often managers say, don't play the game, don't play the occasion, but Steve sort of acknowledged we need to be on top of this occasion as well, because that is a key part. And that was an interesting one, Simo, isn't it? How you deal with that sort of side of it as well, and actually how you acknowledge that these aren't ordinary games.
No, very much. Oh, sorry, God, Simo, go.
There's two sides to this. As journalists, we're like, yeah, this is great. We know if we were going to script this, we'd do this. But I think if you're on the inside, this is like the last thing that you want. I think you want to be playing a stranger that you know nothing about, or you want to be playing against someone you really don't like. I think when you kind of these extra kind of personal elements come into it, like journalistically, we're like, yes, we're all over this narrative. I think if you're the person dealing with it, that's got to be really difficult. How do you set that aside? And we can say all the cliches about you've got to be professional, you got to kind of treat it like every other game. But I think even the very, very best will find that a difficult challenge to do. And maybe in some ways it's one you just want to get out of the way when really you should be savouring it. This won't happen very often. But yeah, everyone would approach this slightly differently. I don't know how I would do it. I think I would find it hard to ignore kind of these personal elements and maybe just kind of roll with that rather than shut it out. But everyone would have to kind of navigate that in their own way, depending on their personality, I think.
It reminds me a lot of the Aldershot Woking FA Trophy semi-final last year, where it was one of those games that it was great playing against each other, but I think if you'd have asked them, they'd rather avoid it and play at Wembley. It was sort of almost like as Andy just said, that it's almost like the atmosphere was, let's just get this game out of the way, and let's just try and if we can nick a win. But obviously, if you lose, it hurts just that little bit more. And it's going to be a little bit like that. I mean, I think the reaction of the Chelmsford supporters when this draw was first announced, they were all gathered up in the bar, and they were cheering like they'd won the game already. And I think that just goes to show just how much it means to them. And I think we're all for a cracking local derby. And I'm pleased. I'm pleased the TV cameras are there for it. I didn't think they would be. I must admit. I thought they would go for a more glamour tie in the higher reaches, but I'm really pleased I didn't, because I think this could actually be the tide around for me.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it, where you Steve Pitt kind of said to me last week, he was in the gym working out when he just said, I made the mistake of looking at my phone, just doing some ways. I looked at my phone, and so just the first message that came out said, you couldn't write this, could you? And he said, you need to look. I knew exactly what it meant. I knew it would be drawn. They said his phone just went bananas, so I just had to leave the gym. I had to get out, because it's one of those. Yeah, if you win, brilliant day. If you lose, not easy, and then you then have to watch the draw and see what you could have won, kind of thing. It's like
you could have won.
It's like it's like a bullseye, isn't it? And bring that speedboat. Here's what you could have won. Get through and get a really good tie. So very
we probably shouldn't let people see behind the curtain here, but that is a question I always like to ask for cup stories. Where were you when you found out who you were? Because you very often get a good line from that, and I did chuckle when I read that at the weekend. So he was in the. It's always worth asking that question.
It's what you got to ask.
Might give you a hook. You know, I'd strike lucky.
Sometimes they offer it up. You're like, intro.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. But you have to ask it, because there is always like really random. Often really random sort of. Yeah. Sometimes they're on sort of like taking their kids somewhere, and they're at like gymnastics, or they're sometimes at work or at home with the family. There's often like a little. It doesn't always play off. I was just watching we were watching at the club, and we just before training or something, and it's not as interesting. But you do.
In fact, they're often the worst reactions, aren't they? We all tune in to watch it always makes me laugh. You always tune in to watch the FA Cup first round draw, or whichever televised draw. They've got a crowd in the clubhouse. Camera always pans to the face of a relevant individual, and they don't know what to do, so they try and kick. Robbie posted it when Forest Green pulled Luton Town, and he like, what do you do? Like, if you go, oh yes, that's going to come back and bite you on the ball, you kind of look crestfallen, that's going to bite you. So we end up getting no reaction often, because they're kind of desperately trying not to move any facial muscles when they're being televised for the draw.
He actually spoke more about Macclesfield than he did about Forest Green, I think.
He did, yeah.
In fairness to him, it was the questions he was asked rather than anything else. But I was more impressed that Steve Pitt still goes to the gym, especially on a Monday night when he's had a long weekend. He's putting the rest of us to shame, isn't he?
Work out information. But I don't know if you're the same. I find it sort of like weirdly stressful watching these draws. When you particularly when it gets sort of the second and third round, you're like really thinking, who's going to get that? And I find it almost, I don't know. I've got no skin in the game other than wanting to see a non-league side get good ties, but I find them like really stressful. I can't imagine what it's like actually being in it. And like you say, sometimes the reactions are.
Finding war in my house, because I'm just sitting there going, oh no. Oh, home. Oh no.
And that's just when Ipswich are in it, and you're worried.
Which is quite rare.
We've done so. We've got 38 minutes before we've mentioned Ipswich losing to Macclesfield in the FA Cup, and I haven't mentioned Lincoln either. So it's
just don't mention McKenna and Celtic, because
this is it.
We've only got a certain amount of time.
It sounds like could be all changed. Could be all changed by the time that you're in the FA Cup, but who knows? But I sort of find it really stressful. It must be a weird thing when you're in it, but it is that reaction. And sometimes when you get the camera goes to them and they're sort of clearly disappointed, but try not to show that they are. Probably this is to bring it back when it used to be on the radio and you didn't have to worry about all that.
But I love doing it when, like the first round, for example, with all those non-league clubs, I'm just looking up purely as a neutral, as a non-league fan. I want to see them get all the big draws, and there was a couple out there that I cheered, like Eastleigh Walsall. I thought, God, what a great draw that is for them, and obviously that was going to be a Sunday. That's another one, really. Walsall won't fancy that at all. Their form's dipped a little bit over the last couple of weeks, and Eastleigh Eastleigh again, absolutely no fear at all in taking them on in front of the TV cameras on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah, I think that's got all the makings of another good one.
Yeah, definitely. And on Sunday we've obviously got the lowest ranked side, Malden and Tiptree, going to Port Vale as well. And that we're talking about reactions. There's a sort of viral social media clip of one of the Malden owners saying,
"Who is that?
Where's that?" I think he said, "Well, that was rubbish." First of all, wasn't he?
Manchester, I think.
Yeah, and where's that? And so I think sort of Port Vale obviously sort of had a little bit of play of that on social media, and all got a bit a little bit bit strange, but that's an interesting one there with Malden going up to Port Vale. And if they I'm sure they'll be doing their homework, and they need to, because they've got some dangerous players. Talking about players who are carrying on playing through their later years, with Freddie Sears there and Gary Hooper at Malden, aren't they? And not your usual step four cloggers as they might be expecting to go up there. It could be a slightly dangerous one for Port Vale if they're not on it. And then in the afternoon as well on Sunday, Gainsborough against Altrincham, which is an interesting one. And Gainsborough, Andy, they had a great run last year, didn't they? And that sort of bonkers game against Hensford, and then having knocked out Boston in the fourth round qualifying, and then they've gone and done a similar thing this year by conceding late to Hartlepool in the fourth round qualifying and going and winning in the replay in some style. But a real opportunity for them, with a home game against Acton, 5:15 on Sunday, to really show off what they've been achieving the last couple of years under a really experienced manager in Russ Wilcox.
Amazing. I mean, talking to reactions to draws, if you're in the Aki camp, that is one where you are letting out a big sigh. Certainly when you start to do your homework, if you didn't know much about Gainsborough, then you've started to look into what they've been up to. You're kind of dreading this one, I think. But yeah, I think for us, the focus on Gainsborough, I know you spoke to Russ a couple of times this season. I mean, it was extraordinary that a Step 3 side's on the verge of potentially making the second round in successive seasons. I mean, that alone is a remarkable feat. They just love knockout games, though. They're still in the FA Trophy, by the way. They've got a good tie. They played Alfreton at home in the next round of that. Yeah. But also deserve enormous credit for still occupying a playoffs position in the Northern Premier Division. And very often we see, don't we, certainly with the NPL or kind of Step 3, Step 4 sides, when they go on a run in the FA Cup, you look at the league table, they've played about 4 games by the middle of October. Gainsborough have been keeping up the momentum in the league as well. I mean, what an extraordinary time to be following that club. It'll be packed out on Sunday. They've got absolutely nothing to lose. And the other thing that I found remarkable about Gainsborough, certainly for those of us who follow the Northern Premier League and I watch, most weekends I'm covering a Northern Premier League game, is when you lose a player of Dec Howe's talent, the contribution that he made to that club, nearly 70 goals in 2 seasons. How many non-league clubs, when we talked about Alty earlier, losing key attackers, it's so difficult to find the next Dec Howe. Johnny Margaret, yes, is a fantastic player, good reputation, scored lots of goals wherever he's been. Big shoes for him to fill, and he's contributed well so far for Gainsborough. But for them to go again after losing such an important player, huge respect to the job that Russ has done there. I mean, they're really on a crest of a wave, and you must be pinching yourself if you're a Trinity supporter, because I don't know how much better than this it can get. I mean, hopefully they can get back to the National League North would be the answer to that. But enjoy this weekend, because it's been an amazing 18 months, 2 years for them.
Yeah, I think my text messages to Russ Wilcox tend to start with "me again."
He's doing well though. If you're texting him saying that, he knows he's doing well.
Look at his phone and think, "Oh,
it's really nice. It's coming.
You're doing well then."
Oh yeah. Want me for something again? But he's I kind of, you have to be sort of pleased with people like that, because he's had such a great career, and we're talking about players who kind of keep going on, and for a manager of Russ's sort of experience and what he's kind of done in the game as assistant manager, obviously he's won leagues with Scunthorpe as a manager. He's been assistant to Brian Laws at much higher up the ladder, and sort of have that enthusiasm to be going at non-league level and dealing with all the things you have to kind of deal with and cope with, and like you say, the kind of losing players like Dec Howe and having to replace them, and be in that sort of treadmill. That's kind of all credit to him as well. He's able to kind of keep that motivation. You have to sort of admire that, don't you, and sort of respect that.
Yeah,
he has got that for sure as well. So
100%.
That's
that'll be an amazing atmosphere. I don't know if you've ever been to the North Home, but it's a tight ground. That'll be an amazing atmosphere on Sunday. I mean, Aki, they've not that long ago playing Anfield in the FA Cup, so their players have got quite nice recent memories of this competition. But it'll be a very different occasion for the lads who maybe played at Anfield, be going out there on Sunday. They're struggling a little bit, aren't they, in the lower reaches of League Two? So won't be looking forward to that. They are definitely one of those teams who let's just get in and get out and hope we're still in the competition.
Yeah. That's one that if you're not around and don't get a chance to watch the opening part of that game, I feel like you can sort of flick that on at kind of 5:45, half an hour in, and Gainsborough be 2-0 up. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Not at all.
No. For the rain lashing down and all that sort of, as you say, all those good cliches that people like to throw around. It would certainly be one of those. But yeah, interesting weekend ahead, obviously on Sunday and Monday as well, which we'll obviously have previews in the paper for. But I like the idea on Saturday of everyone kind of, all these fans getting in their cars and they're jumping on trains and going off to these sort of mad places they never would have expected. Think of like Hemel going all the way up to Wigan, and a great opportunity for Lee Allenson and his boys at Hemel to go up and play at former winners of the FA Cup and experience that and see maybe can they kind of go and put some sort of pressure on them. But as an experience, the FA Cup's a huge one as well, isn't it, for players and fans, and that'll be a good one for them going all the way out there.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved as well. I mean, they've got a great tie there. I mean, it wasn't long ago that Wigan were beating star-studded Man City at Wembley and were FA Cup holders. And yeah, I mean, Hemel, a bit like what we said. What we said earlier about having big game players. They've got those big game players and players that won't have any fear at all about going up to Wigan. Albeit this is a decent Wigan side playing in League One, but seen it all before, haven't we? I mean, I've seen. I remember a couple of years ago, Aldershot going to Swindon and putting 7 past them. It's kind of got that sort of vibe to it as well, isn't it? Absolutely nothing to lose. Just go there, play your own game, and let them worry about you. And I think as you say, having that no fear and that siege mentality, as you mentioned earlier, Balazar, I think that can go a long way. And absolutely nothing to lose for them this week. And good luck to him. And hope Lee Allenson is a really good talker, good friend of ours at the NLP. Hope he gets through, and we'll have a chat with him ahead of the next round.
Yeah, that's one we have got as pictures as well. But it's kind of, we're talking about peeling behind the curtain. We can't. We don't. The way we do it, we don't pick every game as a picture. I think we've got 20 games over Friday and Saturday, haven't we? And then obviously the games on Sunday, and then Tamworth on Monday. But it's hard to pick. And that Aldershot one brings back a memory of, I think, when the 5th one went in, we were like, we need to get pictures from this game, because it wasn't one that we had. Luckily, Ian Warsman,
I remember that.
Number 12 at Aldershot, but you were sort of frantically texting during the game, because it is.
Yeah. Texting my mate Aldershot. Oh, got any pictures?
not that we weren't going to do.
No. Of course, you were our number one choice for pictures today. And
we know we normally text you earlier in the week, but can you send some pictures over? But that's one as well, isn't it? That's that sort of funny side of it, and we're frantically in the office, sort of trying to put in games. I'm aware we sort of we've talked about a lot. We haven't covered everybody. I think another one we sort of did pick out before the game that we haven't talked about is FC Halifax against Exeter, and Adam Lakeland doing talk about change, doing a great job there since he's gone in. I think he's been nominated for Manager of the Month for the National League this month, and Josh Amami as well as player. So they're going great there, and for Exeter a game that, again, do you really want to be going to the Shea on a Saturday afternoon? It's could be a tricky one for them. Simo, do you think?
Yeah, an Exeter club who have a couple of FA Cup battle scars, don't they, against Non-League? I think they lose to they lost to Warrington. Didn't they lose to Curzon National on a Friday night once as well? A couple of humblings.
Who did Warrington beat that time?
I think it was Exeter. Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So their fans thanking us for reminding them of that. But so it's they've got form for taking a tumble on these away games against non-league teams. So I mean, mentioned to you guys last week, Adam Lakeland, what a seriously impressive trajectory. I remember him as a young coach. He'd moved from Curzon Ashton down to Northwich to do his first managerial stint, and he's never really looked back. But even then, an impressive guy to interview, to talk to, kind of very assured, really backs himself, but has gone and kind of not just walked, you know, he's done it. He's gone and done it in sometimes difficult circumstances. Kingsley, not the easiest club to manage, to put it mildly, and he did very well there. So I think has earned this opportunity, but has done it in a quite careful way. You know, he's kind of took a step each time. He's not been parachuted in anywhere. He's kind of gone and done well wherever he's gone, and it's brilliant to see somebody kind of who's gone on that journey, to use a cliche, but he very much has, and there's loads more to come. And it's a club that, you know, could go places if or going to go back to the next level into the Football League if he gets it right. So good on him. I'm really pleased for him, and if they get a result this weekend, even better.
Yeah. There's another one as well, Badders. 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Boreham Wood.
Yeah.
In the third round.
Well, that's why I just assumed we weren't talking about Bournemouth.
Money on it.
We're just talking about Bournemouth.
Crawley Town. There's no non-league team with a better recent non-league, with better FA Cup history than Boreham Wood, and Luke Garrard's at it again. Good home tie for them, and you just know they're going to win it.
As I said, yeah, I almost don't think of it, because I just assume that. I just know that, because that's just what Bournemouth do. That's just what they do. They turn up to these games, they win 1 or 2-0, and then they move on to the next round, and that's kind of just how it rolls. And then in February, whenever it is, you're up at Everton on a Thursday night or whatever it was. Catch with was it 8:15 kickoff on that Thursday night?
It was, Thursday night, 8:15 kickoff. Absolutely lashed it down. It was it was a good evening. The one and only time I've ever been to. I've been to Goodison Park, and Bournemouth were good on the night as well. And they certainly gave a good account of themselves. And it was just the 2 goals, but they was certainly a night for those fans to remember.
Sim, I'll put you on the spot. Where's the place that you've enjoyed covering an FA Cup game, or like the place that you've kind of gone, or maybe you had a near miss of thinking, I wish if only we got through there, would have been off to.
Yeah, I've had quite a few painful near misses. I think definitely when Vix beat Charlton on ITV Sport, when Andy Priest was the manager, 29-10 season. There was like all the usual off the field shenanigans going on at Norwich at the time. And Andy Priest, a guy we know well, was kind of steadying the ship on the field. They got on a real roll in the FA Cup that season. And Charlton, with the archetypal, kind of turned up, had like, what are we doing here? It was written all over the players' faces. And the other Phil Parkinson was there, manager that afternoon. And that's going to kind of gone down in infamy in their history. They were turned over that day. They were lucky to only get beat 1-0, frankly. And probably all the players who turned out for them that day were kind of scarred from that experience. And it always amazes me now, the access that we have to non-league and the profile, and we can watch players, our awareness of players, that these EFL teams still will turn up and think, I don't want to be anywhere like this on this occasion, and then wonder why they get knocked out. But that's kind of why we love doing what we do, because we know it's going to happen again this weekend. That was an amazing occasion. They played Lincoln City in the next round again on the TV. Chris Sutton was the manager at Lincoln then, and Lincoln were just a little bit too strong for them. But that's definitely the one I've enjoyed the most. Just before that, I think it's got to the third round. Do you remember when they played Sunderland in 05-06? Steve Burr was the manager, an incredible run. Then, so like they've given me some good times in the, like I say, as well as the 8-0 I mentioned earlier in this episode. So it can go the other way as well. But no matter what, and I think that hopefully the theme of this episode is, no matter how your team's doing in the league, like the FA Cup first round should be something that you absolutely look forward to this weekend. You might be flying in the league like Gainsborough, going, yeah, bring it on, or you might be struggling in the league going, actually, it's quite nice to go on a road trip like Alty doing to Slough or Chester to Cambridge, some of the other teams we've mentioned, and gone, let's just enjoy the FA Cup. So I'm hoping that everybody's feeling good going into this weekend, and they might not be when after the results come in, but like, this is why we love football this weekend, to go and enjoy these occasions.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think it's as we say, it's the results that we're not, or the games we maybe haven't had a chance to talk about today, that kind of just go in under the radar, or you get through and suddenly you get this brilliant draw in the second round, or do you kind of quietly get into, suddenly you end up in that third round and you get that life changer, like obviously like Tamworth did last year, and they've got obviously their game on Monday against Leyton Orient. But incredible stories, and that's as you say, that's kind of the sort of slightly slightly self-indulgent way of like how we sort of look at it from a, it gives us these great sort of opportunities for ourselves as well, and that's why we love it. We love telling all the stories, and there's plenty. There'll be plenty written this weekend. That's why I like it, because it's all still to happen. It's all the possibilities are there. There's someone at the moment is kind of doesn't know it, but they are going to pop up in the last minute and sort of nick a header under the line, or smash, hit that unstoppable 30-yarder into the top corner, and then you'll have all the sort of the nationals asking you what you do, what your job is, and stuff.
Yeah. What do you do for a living?
Yeah. To get all those tortured intros out to sort of get in the barm and all that sort of thing. But that's my sort of cynical non-league sort of hat coming on there. But yeah, a brilliant weekend ahead. Apologies we haven't sort of covered the game of your team. There are so many of them of this week, and the beauty of this is we get to come back and talk about it all next week when we see what happened as well. So thanks, chats, for joining us and giving all your insight into that. It was really enjoyable. Thanks everybody for tuning in. As I said before, if you can like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, be really appreciative. And also, plenty in Sunday's paper, so make sure you pick that up on Sunday morning, previewing all the Sunday and the Monday ties and all the shocks from Saturday in there as well. So busy weekend ahead. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll catch you again soon.
Enjoy.